We'll get started in just about 2 minutes. We'll start in just a minute. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Welcome, everyone. My name is Karen Keegan, and I am from the Department of Education in the Higher Education Office. Welcome to our Delaware Student Success webinar on the college admissions process. Just a couple things that I want to mention. The webinar is being recorded, and you can watch the recording if you would like to see it again, or you know someone who it might be helpful for. Will be on the Delaware Student Success website. Everyone is muted on the call, and so we're going to ask you to please write any questions you have in the chat. And no one is on video except for the presenters. So one really exciting thing that we want to announce is that we just launched a texting program for high school students and parents. If you would like to sign up, you can text the word success to the number on the screen, 302-492-2092. And we will remind you about these upcoming webinars, which I'm going to show you what the next few topics are. We'll also send you reminders about things to think about doing to plan your next steps for after high school graduation. And you can also text us back with questions and we will answer them. The people who would be answering and seeing the texts would be me from the Department of Education. And then we have a couple of people on the call from the University of Delaware Institute for Public Administration, and they partner with us to help us run College Application Month and Delaware Student Success programs across the state. So please feel free to sign up and text. If you do that, you'll get a few short questions just asking your first name, last name, what school you go to, and what grade you're in. And then you will hear from us probably about twice a week. And you can, of course, opt out at any time. Can you go to the next slide? So we have 17 webinars coming up. I just wanted to put the topics here so that you could see them. Each one of our Delaware colleges and universities will be doing their own session so that you can learn more about their admissions process and their programs and their majors. Tonight is a general college admissions webinar so that you can learn more about the process generally. We have information on financial aid coming up. We also are going to have 2 sessions with military branches so that you can understand and learn about career and educational opportunities. We'll do a session on apprenticeships, on industry certification. So what kind of jobs can you get if you have an industry certification? And then a session on resumes, interviews, and cover letters so that when you go for those work opportunities or internships, you are well prepared and know how to present yourself. Also, and the information for these webinars, as you probably know because you're on this webinar, is all on delawarestudentsuccess.org. You can register for these at any time. The other thing that's on the calendar that you'll see there are Stand By Me's financial aid information session. So we partner with financial aid, and they do statewide sessions for students and parents on how to pay for college, how to complete the FAFSA, how to apply for scholarships. And those are all listed on the website as well. And you're welcome to sign up for any and all of them that would be helpful to you and your family. So I wanted to make sure you knew about that. So now I'm going to turn it over to our college admissions panel. We have with us, we're very lucky to have with us Alejandra McFern from the University of Delaware, Pia Stokes from Delaware State University, and John Mahoney from Boston College. And they are going to talk about the admissions process and give you some really important information to help you take your next steps.
All right, thank you so much, Karen, for having all of us here together. And we hope that today, we kind of help get rid of maybe some of those nerves that you might have, or some of that angst that you might have. And, if you've been thinking about going to college, or maybe this is the first time you're really sitting down with a parent or on your own to explore colleges and universities and what is it going to take, we welcome you. And we want to tell you that, it is possible. You just have to take it step by step. And so hopefully through the presentation today, you will feel comfortable and you will be invigorated, I guess, to continue, doing well in high school, continue, doing well, not only academically, but also within your community. And so just to kind of, get started, I guess, here, as Karen mentioned, I am an assistant director at the University of Delaware. I've been now at UD for about 8 years now. And I want to go ahead and pass it over also to my colleagues so that, we may or may not get a chance to fully introduce ourselves. So I want to make sure I do pass it over to my colleagues before we formally get started.
Ladies first.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Alejandra, as well. I am Ms. Pia Stokes. I am one of our associate directors for the Office of Admissions at Delaware State University.
And good evening to all of you. It's a pleasure to be with you and with Alejandra and Pia for tonight's program. My name is John Mahoney. I do represent Boston College. I've worked at Boston College now for 36 years. Much has changed during that time period, but one thing has not, and that is that I have visited the great state of Delaware for every year until this year because of COVID, unfortunately. And I've read every application that's come from the state of Delaware to Boston College. So it is my pleasure to be with you and with my colleagues this evening.
So we all have that in common. We do have the state of Delaware and recruiting in our wonderful state. And so if you're thinking to yourself, okay, I've heard about colleges, what is it going to take? Let's go ahead and get started. And so the first thing to mention and to note is that there's going to be multiple ways for you to apply to a college or university. For example, you see right here on your screen, you are going to see the common application, the coalition application, and also school-specific applications. You'll also note that we provided there the link or the website to each of the Common App and the coalition applications. So to start off, it's very important to note that there are dates, there are timelines, there are deadlines as well for colleges and universities. I can tell you that the University of Delaware, for example, we do accept the common application and the coalition application. So these specific applications are going to ask you pretty much the same type of questions. They're going to want to get to know you a little bit. They'll ask you questions about yourself, your address, right? Your family, your mom, your dad, sibling information. You'll put that all in there. Both applications as well, they are going to, give you prompts, essay prompts within these applications. Now, colleges and universities, we really have nothing to do with those, but if you're interested in those prompts, you actually have access to them even right now. So if you are a junior with us here today, you can kind of start thinking about that. And generally speaking, they do change maybe slightly from year to year. So just note that the Common App and the Coalition App will require that essay. Along with the Common App and the Coalition App, you'll also have a section where you can put down everything that you're involved with. whether it is extracurricular activities and perhaps maybe you have a leadership position within those, or maybe there you can even put in there if you have an after school job, perhaps if you have family responsibilities. This is a way for colleges and universities to kind of get a sense of who you are right outside of the classroom. Some of those leadership traits that you might have, maybe those time management skills that you might possess. You can actually illustrate that through your involvement and your positions within those clubs and organizations, perhaps. Aside from that, I know that, for instance, the Common App, the University of Delaware uses the Common App and the Coalition App, but certain schools will then also have specific questions that are associated with that school. So for instance, the University of Delaware will ask you, you know, are you a Delaware resident, right? Does your, do your parents' legal guardians, do they have a Delaware driver's license? Have they filed Delaware taxes this past year, right? We're trying to establish residency there. So again, different schools might have different questions specifically to them when it comes to the Common App and the Coalition App. As I mentioned to you, dates are important, timelines are important, and deadlines are also important. I can tell you that for the University of Delaware, we have something that's called early action. So early action meaning that it's non-binding. So if we were to give you an admissions decision and say we offer you admission, it doesn't mean that you have to accept that offer of admission. Early action means that we are going to give you your decision sooner than someone who might not have applied early action. That is, early decision is quite different. If you're applying to a school that is early decision, then that means that you are bound to that decision, and that if you are admitted, you know, you are or you will be attending to that college or university. Now, for the University of Delaware, early action, then you also have regular decision. So early action deadline for us, it's November 1st. Typically, a lot of schools have right about that, you know, that deadline. And then for a regular decision, it's January 15th. Now, I do know, as I mentioned, right, there's a third bullet there for you. Some schools, they do have their school-specific application. And that means that normally you would need to go to their website in order to access this application. And so to talk a little bit more just about that, or to give you an example, I know that my colleague from Delaware State University, they have their own school-specific application. So I'll let Ms. Pia Stokes take it away.
Thank you, Alejandra. So you're spot on, you're dead on with it. And to a school like Delaware State, we do not participate with the Common App or the Coalition App, but we do have a college specific. So what does that mean, right? So when you are looking to apply to Delaware State University, you would go directly to our website, and you'll probably see apply maybe 50 times around our website. Click here to apply. When you click apply, it takes you to a specific application that is directly through us. It's not a third party or anything like that. It's something that we've built, and it actually does ask you similar questions that the Common App and the Coalition does ask you as well. So it's the basic questions, you know, what do you, of course, your name, your address, where you're from, and your high school, but it also asks you, what extracurricular activities do you participate in? What do you do outside of school? So it asks you those basic things. What is your area of interest? What do you want to study academically? So it does ask you those basic questions. And once you're finished that application, it is fed directly into the institution's, you know, kind of system. We are banner school. You may hear that, but it feeds into our system, and we just kind of are able to review it from that point. But everything is held internal to our institution. So if you have an institution like ours, they may participate in all three. They may be like, you know, or just like ours, we may just do the application specific, or you have some institutions that participate in all three. So as Alejandra was saying, you want to make sure that you're aware of the school's admissions application process as you go through what that looks like. So you're prepared, and you're not doing a common application and trying to apply to Delaware State, and you don't see us there, and you're like, wait, I thought I applied, but we're not on the Common App, so we're not there. We find that a lot. So definitely go directly to the school's websites, or if you're on virtual college fairs, or if it's juniors on here next year as you start to do in-person college fairs, just be sure that you know what the admissions application process is for the schools that you're interested in.
Next slide, please.
Well,
So one question, this is Karen, before you move on to this next part, because there was a question about the Common App and the school-specific app. Do you mind? That someone asked, is it advisable to apply to school-specific application in addition to the Common App and the Coalition app?
I think that will really truly depend on the list of schools that you're planning on applying to. So I would say, first definitely formulate that list, right, of your top schools, right, your reach schools, your safety schools, any school really that you are truly interested in. And then start by doing that research, right? So looking at their websites and then checking to see, are they a part of Common App or Coalition App? Or do they have, if they're not on that list, right, when you go into the Common App or Coalition App, then that probably means that they are going to have their school specific. So you may have to actually do both, depending on your list of schools. Great question, thank you.
But not to the same school. I took that question to mean for the same school. You're only choosing one application for a school.
So if a school then has, if they're part of the Common App or Coalition App, and if they also have their own application? Was that the question, Karen?
That's what I think it means.
Okay, yeah, then in that case, I would just say stick with one application because usually what happens is it just creates kind of confusion within our systems if we have multiple applications. So I would just say stay with one application, stick to it.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Alejandra. You just brought up a very good point in which I see a lot. And it may sound really silly, but when you guys are doing the admissions applications, please make sure you're not rushing through and you're spelling your name correctly. There's a lot of students who misspell their name or they transpose their first and last name. And then when you're trying to follow up with the institution, we can't find a record that you've completed an admissions application because your name isn't spelled correctly. So just make sure, we know you're excited, it's an exciting time, but just please make sure you're spelling your name right, because once, a lot of times, some institutions, once your record is in our system, you may have to show levels of documentation to actually change the admissions record because it's an official record with our institution. So just make sure everything is filled out correctly when you're doing it, and you do spell your name and your mailing address as well as your email address, because a lot of times institutions use your email addresses that you place on the admissions application, whether it's a third party or whether it's an institution. We use the email addresses to communicate with you. So if your name is Steve Smith or your email address is stevesmith@gmail.com and you only put Steve Smith at Gmail but not the com, that could be a difference. So please just make sure you're spelling everything correctly when you do the admissions application.
great. Thank you, Alejandra. Thank you, Pia, for getting us started. To the audience, what they've done a great job doing here this evening is to give you really the vehicles through which you can apply to colleges and universities, the Common Application, the Coalition Application, or a school specific. But that vehicle is where you sort of describe yourself and you put all that personal information that Alejandra talked about. You also want to make sure, though, that as you're going through this college admission process, you are taking advantage of your counseling department at your high school, because you want to let them know what schools you're applying to and what vehicles that you're using, because they're going to coordinate sending in your transcript, which is one of the things that we're going to be using to make a final decision on your application. So make sure you're working closely with your counselors. There are also schools such as Boston College and perhaps my colleagues that also will require that you have 1 or 2 teacher recommendations, because that's going to be part of our evaluation process. At least at Boston College, it is. Not at all schools, but at some schools that's going to be the case. So if you are seniors, certainly you really should be lining up a teacher that you really feel you had a good experience with and asking that individual if they would write a statement of support for your candidacy. If you're juniors watching tonight, I'm glad that you're getting an early start on this process. And I would begin to think now about what teachers would be good in terms of representing you to college admission offices. So this second slide now that's up is more sort of for us on the college admission side, the professionals that are looking at a completed application, whether it comes to Delaware State or the University of Delaware or to Boston College or to one of the I don't know, 3,000 or so four-year colleges and universities across the country. These are the components of the application. This is the finished product that we look at. And, you know, my colleagues and I are experienced. We have different processes, certainly. We're evaluating applications, I'm sure, in different ways. We've got our own procedures. Some have committees, some don't. But the bottom line is we're trying to read these applications with great care, with great attention, with great fairness, and trying to look at you in the context of a really talented applicant pool to each one of our schools. And each one of us is blessed with really great students that are seeking a limited number of openings at our schools. So I would say that really this is a two-part process. I think we all are most interested in your academic performance and your academic potential, because we are academic institutions, and obviously we want you to be successful. And these first three bullets under objective criteria are really the things that help us get a sense of who you are, how much you've challenged yourself in high school, what kind of performance you've turned in, and what kind of potential you have to be successful at our institutions. We are committed to enrolling people who will graduate from our institutions. That's really the key. So as we're evaluating, and it differs by school, at a place like Boston College, which has a very large applicant pool and a very talented applicant pool, the first thing that we zero in on is your high school curriculum. A lot of you will go to schools where there might be honors courses available. There might be regular college prep courses available. There might be advanced placement courses available. We really urge you, I think, as professionals on this side of the desk, to challenge yourself to the greatest extent that you possibly can, but don't over-challenge yourself. That's not a wise decision. In other words, choosing courses that really fit you, the person. I don't think we're all left-brained and right-brained people. So, you know, if you excel in English and history, but you're not so hot in math and science, well, you may want to try the honors courses in those English and history courses, but stick with the regular college prep in the other areas. But we on this end are evaluating how much have you challenged yourself based upon your ability, your talent level. We urge you to be very honest with yourself and really try to challenge yourself to the greatest extent possible. But the more rigorous your high school program, likelihood is the more chances you will have to be successful at our institutions. How do we evaluate your suitability for us? Well, we're looking at the rigor of that curriculum and the grades in that curriculum. And there have been numerous studies done throughout the years that the best predictor of how you will do in college is how well you have excelled in a rigorous high school program. So take challenging courses, excel in those courses. You are likely to be a successful college student at whatever schools you might end up going to. Standardized test scores, they're also part of the equation at some schools, although there are plenty of schools that in recent years have been test optional. Now, in this age of COVID, which we are all struggling through, I would say the vast majority of institutions across the country, public, private, selective, not so selective, almost all of us are going to be test optional this year. And that's wise, because the College Board and ACT, which are the two main testing vehicles, have simply not been able to provide enough test sites, test centers to accommodate the demand of students. So this will be a new year for a lot of us. At Boston College, we've always used standardized testing. This year, those students who have taken tests in their junior year and want to submit them may do that. We will evaluate those scores. If they choose not to submit them or are unable to take tests this year, in no way, shape, or form will that work against them in our process. We will evaluate what we have, and that would be based, of course, on mostly the high school curriculum and the grades. Now, I call those objective criteria because they're measurable. They're numerical, they're factual, they're sort of indisputable. But, you know, I always say at Boston College, I don't admit numbers to Boston College, I admit people to Boston College. And each year, as I evaluate applications, there are plenty of students who've taken very challenging courses, have excelled in those courses, and have had very competitive test scores, either the SAT or the ACT. And as I said earlier, we've got a limited number of spaces. We can't admit all of the qualified and deserving students in a given year, much as we would like to. We have to make some really difficult decisions. And what that comes down to is we sort of know that most of the students in our pool could be successful in the classroom. But if we're admitting people, then we're thinking about what are they going to add to our campus community? How are they going to enrich the quality of life on our on our campus community? That's what really matters. We want to enroll a student body with a diverse array of talents who come from all kinds of different backgrounds, who bring all kinds of different perspectives, because when you've got that kind of diversity in your student community, well, that's really the best formula for a great learning experience, when we learn from each other and we learn from the professors that we have in the classroom. So as we look at these subjective criteria, we're trying to figure out personal circumstances. And you should make those as clear to us as you possibly can. Alejandra sort of referenced that, you know, your parents, your siblings, your family, you know, other factors that might be bearing in, you know, perhaps a parent is challenged right now in terms of work because of COVID. We need to know those personal circumstances. They matter to us. They matter to your family. They matter to us. We want to get a clear picture, not only of what you're doing in the classroom, but what you're dealing with at home. Perhaps you have to care for younger siblings at some point. We want to know that, because that's going to cut into your time and it might prevent you from participating in extracurricular activities or other things. So tell us your story. We're here to read that and to understand that in the context of our applicant pool. Obviously, extracurricular activities these days are very limited, but those of you who are seniors, no doubt, through grades 9 through 11, have done things. And, you know, I think we on the college side, we don't really care what you've done. What we care about is that you've selected things and you've been engaged with them and you've been committed to them, and you've really helped to define another aspect of your personality, your candidacy, through the activities that you've done outside of school, whether they be sports, whether they be student government, whether they be debate, whether they be the arts, theater, music. All of those things are ways for you to define yourself as a candidate. And they also give you an opportunity to develop other sides of your personality. We also recognize that many students through their high school years have to work to help themselves and to help their families. Don't underestimate, don't ever minimize that. If that precludes you from being able to participate in extracurricular activities because you have to help yourself or help your family or help begin to think about meeting college costs, that to me is an extremely noble thing, and work is valued in our process. As I mentioned earlier, teacher recommendations can add tremendous support to your candidacy. They see you in the classroom. They can tell us on the college side what the likelihood is for you to participate, what your capability is to do independent learning, to be creative, to be imaginative, to push the discussion in different directions. We're looking for engaged students, students who are willing to lead, students who are willing to challenge each other and challenge their professors in a good way, in a positive way. This really enriches the learning experience when it's not just rote learning, but people learning from each other. Your counselors in many cases will know you very well, or in some cases they might not know you very well because they have a lot of counselees in their load. We understand that, we're cognizant of that, but counselors also will supply some kind of a recommendation and maybe check off some boxes to the extent that they know you and can tell us meaningful things about you. Finally, there are essays, and my colleagues have mentioned essays. And you know, I've always said in my long admissions career, think about it, my friends. The essay is the one part of this process over which you have complete control. Ultimately, your grades are going to be assigned by teachers. Your SAT and ACT scores come from College Board. Teachers may tell us what they think of you. Counselors may tell us what they think of you. But in your essay, you have an opportunity to tell us a story about yourself. And if I may, before I pass the baton on to the next slide, just talk a little bit about the opportunity that you have. First, with the Common Application essay, there are about, I think, 6 or 7 prompts there. The Common Application asks you to select one of them. Choose the one that will be the best vehicle for you to tell us something meaningful and valuable about yourself, okay? That Common Application essay will be sent to several different schools. All those, there are about 800 schools that are on the Common Application, for example. So that Common Application will be used for several different schools. You may apply to Delaware State, which doesn't use the Common Application, but you may use this question perhaps there if they're looking for an essay question. But I really say, I used to be an English teacher, so I say this is an opportunity and an opportunity not to be missed to tell us a story, preferably a story about you, not somebody else, a story about you. Or if you do talk about somebody else, you want to tell us why this individual is important to you, but tell us a story. The second piece of advice that I give you is don't overthink this. These stories are not very difficult to come up with. They are stories in most cases that are right underneath your noses. They're right in front of you. I call them, these are stories of family folklore. These are the kinds of things that you laugh about, that you cry about, that you talk about when you get together as a family at July 4th or at Thanksgiving. These are stories that define you in relationship to your family, but they also probably tell us a lot about who you are as an individual. So think about those wonderful stories, stories of success, stories of failure, stories of challenge and adversity that might be a good one to tell us on the college side, because it will really give us great insight into the human being that we will be having come to our campus. So do that. So finally, as an English teacher, I got to give you two technical pieces of advice. We, on the college admission side, read lots of applications. We have to read them in a very short period of time. We know how to do this and we move rather quickly. So I say the best thing that you can do from a technical standpoint is have a great opening sentence. Because I say a great opening sentence that is thoughtful, provocative, intriguing, unusual. I'm not asking you to be odd or gimmicky or anything like that, but thoughtful and provocative, something that really piques my interest. Because if you do that, what you've done is you've already achieved something, because you've slowed me down. I read that first sentence and I say, now where is she going with this? What an interesting opening line. I'm going to read that essay more carefully. And finally, I always say the best essays that I've read, which I keep in a collection, which is probably worth a lot of money right now in a little manila folder. The best essays that I've read through my career use imagery very effectively. So if you're telling that story, think about an image from that story that will remain in my mind. I've moved on to an application 3 or 4 beyond yours, but I still can't get that image that you used to tell me your story. And I can't wait to tell my colleagues the next day at the committee table, listen to this essay and how well this student did in presenting herself to Boston College. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And, you know, we all know that there's, you know, so much you can tell, only so much you can tell from letters and numbers on a transcript. I also want to add that, you know, sometimes schools, they also might have essay specifics just to them. So for instance, the University of Delaware, when a student applies test optional, you know, we are going to have also 3 supplemental questions. And that's just a way, again, for us to kind of get to know you a little bit more. But speaking of standardized test scores and test optional and all of that, Pia will dive right into it and explain a little bit more.
Thank you, Alejandra, and thank you, John, for segueing us right into this piece. So essentially, standardized tests. We'll talk the basics and then we'll go into where we are with COVID, with the test optional piece or not. So essentially, most schools now still require these standardized tests. What are the standardized tests? The wonderful 2 tests that we love. The 2 main, as John alluded to, are your SATs and your ACTs. So what are they? They're standardized tests which help a college or university gauge if you're ready and if you're prepared to learn the content and on that collegiate level, right? So some students ask, first of all, should I take the SATs or should I take the SATs or ACTs? I don't know which one to take. I know we get that question a lot. And my answer is always, I'm very put it back on you as a student, right? Take some ownership, right? So it takes for you to do some research on your end. So for the SATs, and we'll jump into diving deeper into the subject test piece, but for the SATs, if you're attending a school and you know you want to be an engineer, that you know that's what you want to study, and the school does require not just the SATs, but they also require more specific subject tests focused on science and or math, and you know that that's going to help you not only for admission into the school, but also within that program so that they can gauge, are you ready for this vigorous program with our institution? Those are some things you want to look at as well. And of course, the bigger picture is research both tests. You can actually go right online to College Board and also for the ACTs and answer practice questions. You can do that right now for free. You can do it from your phone. That's the easiest way. And I'll say that I am not a good test taker. So I was a student that I probably used every practice test in the book because they just terrified me. And the world, back then it was, I said to myself, the world would be a better place if we did not have to take tests, right? But how do institutions, how do your teachers, how do they gauge your level of knowledge? How do they, right? This is an indication, just an indication. But as John let you know, this is not the main thing that we look at. So keep that in mind. So you want to make sure that you're doing some practice questions for both standardized tests, and you're reading, okay, does this fit me? Does the SAT or the ACT, which one fits me? And it doesn't hurt to do both. Some institutions do still require the SATs. Some institutions, just the ACTs. Some you're allowed to take both and submit both answers. So the biggest thing for those pieces is that you understand and know what the admissions requirements are for the institutions that you're looking to attend. We're going to probably say that to you another 30 times on this presentation. You always want to be aware what the admissions requirements are for the institutions that you're looking at. If you've narrowed it down to your top 3 to 5 and they require a SAT and not require an ACT and you're a good test taker, you don't have to take the ACT. Maybe you want to take it just to take it. Some students do, just to gauge where you are. You can do that. So essentially, even for both tests, right? So for some institutions with that piece, some institutions, you can only submit your test scores one time. You can't do it multiple times. So that also brings us to some other institutions. You can submit the test your test results every single time you take it. An institution like Delaware State, we do something called super scoring, right? So that means if you however many times you take the SATs or the ACTs, we receive the scores each time. It goes into our system and we super score. So essentially it takes the highest of every section that you've gotten. So if you've taken the SATs twice, and let's say you do better in math the first time, and then maybe you go down the second time, that won't counteract you the second test you got. So it's only going to help you if you're someone like myself. It benefited me to take it multiple times because I'm not a good test taker. So you want to be sure that you're aware of the institution and do they allow you to take the test multiple times? Or hey, let me take it multiple times. If I can only submit one test score, let me submit my best. So you want to keep that in mind as a student as well. So now that we're in the days of COVID, right? Or actually, I'll kind of jump down and back up. So the submitting the results piece, right? So when you take the SATs or the ACTs, the beautiful part about our wonderful living in 2020, not the COVID piece, but when you sit down to take the test, you can actually list schools that you're interested in attending that you want to receive your test scores electronically. It's nothing additional that you need to do. You actually just write them down or kind of put them in the system. And once your test results are finished, the schools that you listed on either standardized test, they automatically receive a copy of your SAT or ACT scores that go along with your application. You want to make sure you're being smart about that too. Some students say, okay, I'm interested in 5 schools, but I only put 1 down on, to receive my scores. No, if it allows you to put down 5 schools that you're interested in, put down all 5. That's one less thing that you have to do to try to send in your test scores, whether it's by fax, mailing, or just, it just eliminates one additional step. You'll thank me later for that, by the way. But I would definitely recommend trying to get that submitted electronically so that it's automated. It's one less thing you have to do for submitting your results. Some institutions allow you to actually upload your test results onto the admissions application. So you want to make sure that you're aware. I always tell students, College Board makes it very easy. You can actually download a PDF of your SAT scores. Some students save it to their phone. Some students take a screenshot or email it to themselves or their parents so that no matter what they may need it for, whether it's scholarships or admissions, they have it saved or they have access to those College Board pieces. So you want to make sure that you're aware of how you can submit the test scores. When in doubt, always select the easiest, most seamless way to submit them, because again, it makes it easy for you. So now the test optional piece, right? Is it optional? Is it not? Most schools are going, as John let you know, most schools are going to the standardized test being optional. Why? Because not every student is able or has been able to take the SATs or the ACTs. So we are not going to penalize you for not being able to take it. It has made us it's challenged us a bit on the collegiate side because we've had to come up with different measures as to how we're either going to award scholarships or award admittance, whatever that looks like. But that's fine. We'll take that on as opposed to you guys, because I know that even with the SAT starting back up, there have been a lot of test dates and locations that at the last minute, they're canceled, whether it's a testing site issue or whatever, the issue may be. But you want to make sure that you're on top of things and you are aware, again, being aware of the school's standardized test and admissions process. So if a school that you're interested in is test optional and that's an avenue you want to take, make sure you're aware of that. Call the school. Not all schools list if they have an optional test policy admittance manner for you to take advantage of. Don't hesitate. There are our phone numbers, our contact information is on the website for a reason. A lot of schools, I know Delaware State is, and I believe my colleagues are as well, there's a way to get us virtually. Sometimes it's the barcode at the bottom of our signatures or on the website, a way that you can meet with us just as you're seeing us today, and we can interact and talk, but in a virtual manner. So when in doubt, again, just contact the school, even if you don't see it on the website, and don't be deterred. If you don't see it, don't say to yourself, okay, I wanted to go to the University of Delaware, but I didn't take the SAT, so I definitely cannot get into the University of Delaware. That is not the case. You want to look at the website. If it's not there, contact the Office of Admissions at the University of Delaware. You have an amazing contact right here on our panel discussion presentation tonight. Take that information. And a lot of times there are plenty of people that work in the admissions areas or enrollment areas. If we are not the direct contact people, we work for a team that we can make it happen or get you the answers, or just kind of have a three-way call or virtual meeting. So we will make it happen. That's why we're here as a resource for you. So be aware of that. And even with the test optional policies, not every school's, thresholds are the same. So you want to make sure that you're reading what the test optional threshold is. So some schools, they may have lowered the amount. So if it was 950 before for the SATs, they may have lowered it to 800 because maybe it's a student that they were planning on taking it multiple times but couldn't. So it's on a case-by-case basis. So don't be deterred by what you see on the website. Call the school, contact the school, use us as a resource. That's what we're here for. Also, optional testing. So there's different manners in which you can use the testing to your benefit, right? So test blind, that is not that's not something that we do participate with or kind of do with Delaware State. So I will defer to my colleague on that one with the test blind piece. So John or Alejandra, do you guys utilize that at the University of Delaware, Boston?
We do not.
We don't either, and I think as we were preparing this, we just did want to familiarize you with the term. So there are schools that are, do not use standardized testing, do not require standardized testing. And even if students submit the tests, they say, we're not going to use them. We've got other metrics that we will use. So again, it's about sort of knowing the different admission policies at different institutions. Probably not a huge thing for you to worry about, but it is something that you run into at some places where they say we're simply not going to be using standardized testing at all. And I think we put in this year of COVID, if a student had wanted to submit an SAT or an ACT and was unable to, but had perhaps already taken an SAT subject test or AP test results. And I'm sorry, Pia, if I'm stepping on your lines here, but those are also part of the testing sort of protocols here. And we could evaluate those kinds of results in a year where we may not be able to see SAT or ACT scores.
Yeah, thank you. No, we work as a team, John. So no, you're good. You hit it right on the nail. And I mean, that pretty much wraps it up for the slide, but just wanting to add, to give you an example, you want to know what those test optional policies are and or what those limitations are. I will speak for Delaware State. We do have a test optional policy that we were able to put in place with the COVID taking place so that we did not penalize students. But the only downfall or setback, shall I say, for students that we do admit test optional, they're not currently able to take advantage of merit-based scholarships. So that is a hindrance that we are currently working on. So, you know, again, just being frank and putting it out there as a hindrance at the moment. But I can say for institutions like myself or like Delaware State, that is something that we're continuously looking at. So hopefully by fall 2020 or over the next couple of months, we can say, you know, yes, we are now able to offer you merit-based scholarships even without using or submitting SATs or ACTs. So you want to make sure that you're aware of that. Hey, I can be, you know, admitted test optional, but I can't utilize merit-based scholarships, right? And what is merit-based? Merit-based is just, you know, based on your academics, so your GPA, your test scores, those pieces, just strictly off of that, no extracurriculars. And even with our test optional, let's say you apply to Delaware State and you're admitted test optional, right? But then you're able to take the SATs in October and then you want to submit your scores. You can do that. It's not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you because if you submit your test scores, SAT or ACT, and then you do qualify for merit-based scholarship, if we're still no longer able to offer that, we will then reevaluate your admissions in terms of your merit-based scholarship, not your admissions to the university. But then we can say, hey, your test optional, but you submitted some wonderful test scores because you are now able to take it. Now we can award you merit-based scholarships. So you want to make sure that you're aware of that and you have those conversations with the admissions representative that you're speaking with at the institution, so you are aware, so you can plan forward and plan ahead. And we can go on to our next slide. Awesome. So I believe that my colleague John was, is this John's slide? Okay, look at that, John, look. We just tag team. So just to kind of segue right on in, we brought up the elephant in the room, the pandemic, the COVID, right? So John's going to speak in detail about spring 2020. Okay, what do we do with that and beyond? So take it away, John.
Thank you, Pia, and both of you, please feel free to chime in. We obviously talked about this spring 2020 and what we still don't know what we don't know in terms of this fall semester and even going into the beginning of 2021. But I think probably maybe looking at bullet point number 4, that we on the college side, we're sort of calling this the asterisk year. I think that a lot of you justifiably as students are concerned, how am I going to be evaluated? How am I going to be viewed? I couldn't, my school went pass fail. I had some real challenges with Wi-Fi in my home and my grades were not as good as I would have liked them to be if the school kept conventional grading. So, I think the three of us really want to convey to you that, we're all in this together. We all know how challenging this process has been for us. And we on the college side are looking at that spring semester of 2020 and even this fall semester very much as an asterisk year. All the old rules are gone. We're making this up as we go along. At Boston College, we've never accepted pass-fail grades. We're going to have to accept them this year for the seniors that are applying because that's all they've got for the end of their junior year, and it might be all they have for the first and second quarters. There's nothing they can do about that. We can't penalize them for that. We're not going to penalize them for that. What we're going to do probably is to look at their record of accomplishment prior to the pandemic. And if they're passing their courses, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt and presume that all things being equal, they probably were performing at about the same level. Now, there are some schools, and I know a couple of schools in Delaware that did not move to pass-fail. They actually continued to issue grades. Well, so what if your rather consistent B+, A- average all of a sudden late in the junior year, because of challenges at home, so many people in the house, mom and dad at home working, again, Wi-Fi issues, or who knows what. What if your grades simply weren't as good as they had been? Well, that's something that we're going to have to take into consideration. We are looking at you in the context of other applicants, but if there's a significant deviation from a great performance record prior to that, we're going to say to some extent this is COVID related. So what I'm urging you to do is to present yourself in the best possible ways. Recognize that we are, we're not people with red pens who are trying to mark you down. We're trying to understand the larger context. And again, we all are living through this in our own ways. It's very challenging for all of us. And I think what you're going to find is people on our side of the desk who are looking at your applications and trying to be thoughtful and trying to be sensitive. I think the other thing that I sort of alluded to as I was talking about the components of the application, suggestions that we have for you about things that you might be deprived of right now, that you were deprived of in the spring and that you might be deprived of now in the fall, because COVID is not allowing you to continue with any kind of normal life. So we've got thoughts like getting creative and finding other ways to reveal yourself. And you might look at me and say, what does that mean? I'm stuck here in my house. I'm doing remote learning. I can't play football. I can't play soccer. I can't be in the school musical. I can't be who I want to be. We get that. We're all in the same situation. Our lives are restricted. But I would argue strenuously that there are other things that you can do. So for example, in the free time that you do have, you might look around in your neighborhood and see, how are people doing in that neighborhood? There might be an elderly person in your neighborhood who is not able to get out in the way that he or she used to. Or maybe they can get out, but they're afraid to go into a supermarket. Well, no, there's an opportunity for you to say, I'm going to be a good human being here. I'm going to try to help out a couple of families in the neighborhood. Or maybe there's some younger kids that are struggling with remote learning in the elementary school level. You might offer free tutoring to help a child with spelling or grammar or mathematics or something like that. These are ways to get creative. And as I say, reveal yourself. You can still build your resume even though your activities are limited here by doing things that serve other people, that are humane. We learn a lot about you in the way that you handle stress, in the way that you handle these challenging times. So recognize that it's an asterisk here. There are other ways for you to reveal yourself. If you are a high school junior and you're thinking about who knows what next summer holds, I'm going to give you a couple of suggestions. Well, maybe if you can't get a job or you can't participate in the activities you want, maybe you set yourself an academic project of your own, an independent learning project. Now, as I've already said, and I'm kind of proud of it, I was once an English teacher, and I'm a lover of great literature. I think the written word is very important. Maybe you set up you set up a reading program next summer and say, I'm going to read 5 really great novels. And you could put that on your college application. You were prevented from doing other things, but you really made a commitment to yourself to improve yourself by reading some novels or reading some history or reading some other area that intrigues you, like science or mathematics. There are ways to get creative here in an age where we are very constrained in terms of what we can actually do. So I hope I've captured, Pia and Alejandra, what we talked about. Please add if I'm missing something.
The only thing that I want to add is, if you really truly feel like you need to explain perhaps grades, just know that there is an opportunity for you to do that, whether it's in the Common App Coalition app and the additional section, or perhaps I'm sure that, if it's not, say, on a Del State application where you have to go to their website, if there isn't a place there, reaching out to your admissions representative and really just letting them know, hey, I feel that this is essential for you to know and to add to my application and take into consideration.
So tips for success, right? As we kind of wrap it up a bit. So we want to close on a positive, exciting note, right? So some things that we just kind of brainstormed about that we can share with you guys, not only of our years of experience and what it is we do, but just even some of these things we've done for ourselves to get through what this COVID and pandemic has had us doing over the spring and summer and fall. So essentially, how can you ensure that you're successful, right? Bigger picture. So you want to prioritize your self-care. You want to make sure that you're not, on your laptop and logged into doing work, from, sun up to sundown. You have to take breaks, log in when you're supposed to log in, do your research, write your papers, but get out of the house, take a walk, interact with your friends. So even if it's through Zoom calls or FaceTimes or TikTok or things like that. You know, communicate and have fun, make it fun. You know, I've seen so many students just to the next bullet, find outlets. Yes, you have social media, you have Netflix. Yes, there is TikTok, but TikTok is not your life. So as fun as you guys can have on TikTok, making videos, doing your thing there, get off of the computers, get off of your devices, step away. You may not get it, but I mean, I know I sound like my mom when I say this. Your brain needs a rest. So that you're not just kind of just focused on that. And that, you know, like I said, this is one of those things where we care about what it is we do so much. We had this discussion about being logged onto our computers, working such long hours since we're home for the most part for the pandemic, and not having a break and taking a moment to just de-stress, step away. Same thing for you guys. Like, go outside, play soccer, play football, you know, go outside to the bonfire, you know, roast some marshmallows, all of these things that are an outlet that you can enjoy. You know, make sure you guys are doing them. And also take advantage of virtual programming. I know that, you know, everyone's on a, you know, we're probably Zoom call out, but take advantage of what's offered virtually. I know that I've seen like coding classes, free coding classes that students are able to take advantage of. Khan Academy is a supplementary to their studies. So just some additional tutoring or programming that can not only focus on your studies, but external as well. I saw a karate class that they were offering virtually. So just some things that give you an outlet, whether it's academic or that outlet that you need, take advantage of that. And a lot of those, some things you have to Google sometimes it's word of mouth. Sometimes you just ask your teacher or just kind of ask a family member, hey, you know, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in architecture. You know, anything that's out there, there is some virtual programming about architecture. So just make sure you guys are looking for that. Do a little research. You know, you're used to researching for papers for school and English, as John alluded to. Just look for what interests you, right? Look for what's out there for that. Connect and communicate with your counselor and the admissions counselor from the schools that you're interested into. Do not, it shows initiative. I will tell you this. We're reading on the higher education side, we're reading essays, applications all day. And sometimes it can get pretty mundane. So if we have a student that we read their information, but they're calling us or they shoot us an email to say, hey, I just want to reach out, introduce myself, or hey, I had a question about something. That shows that you're showing initiative. You're not afraid to speak up. You're not afraid to be that person in the room that asks a question. And you're that leader in there. And it's okay not to be the loud, boisterous one. That's okay. But don't be afraid to connect and ask questions. Hey, where can I get the scholarship compendium? High school seniors and juniors, you should know what that is. But where can I get that so I can start to prepare to look for scholarships? Ask those questions. You're not bothering us. I promise you. I know I kind of take that extra step and that extra mile when I see students like that, because it shows they're really interested about their success. They're motivated. Let me help them. And who knows who else they're helping kind of while they're doing that in the process. And next, manage your time. Spoke to this earlier. Please don't be logged into a device all day or playing the PlayStation 4 or the games that you guys are playing now all day long. Manage your time. It's okay to have some game time. It's okay to, you know, of course, focus on your school, that's your focus, but make sure you're managing when you're supposed to do your papers, when you're supposed to log in. Some schools, you don't have set times to log in or set days. Okay, well, you still need to manage what your time looks like, because when you get to college, no one's going to hold your hand and make sure that you log into class, turn in your assignments, or make sure that you do what you need to do. So make sure you manage your time. And again, thank you, Alejandra. Your academics will always come first. Keep that in mind. So yes, we are looking for that well-rounded student, but we also want to make sure we know that that student is ready to handle college level courses and that vigor that comes along with that. And that comes with juggling things that are happening in your life, which is managing your time. Establish your support system. So of course you have your parents or your guardians, but sometimes it's a best friend and you guys are each other's motivators and you hold each other accountable. Sometimes it is your guidance counselor. Sometimes it's your coach, but make sure you establish a few individuals that will hold you accountable if you're slipping and not doing what you're supposed to do. Or maybe, you know, you have one friend that just searches out scholarships. You have another friend that searches out, you know, studying abroad programs, whatever you're interested in. Just make sure you have a support system that works for you and what it is you're looking to do. And lastly, finish finish strong. Don't get senioritis. We all know what that is. Even though we're in the COVID, we're not on our side. We can tell by your record for the most part, kind of something was going on. If you kind of fall off, if you were strong, and then in your last year, you're like, hey, I got this. I got a 4.0 all 3 years. And then your last year of high school, you kind of slip up. So that can take you out of the running for maybe some full ride scholarships or things like that, or opportunities. So make sure you finish strong. Okay. Don't drop the baton now. So just make sure you do that. And sometimes I've had students call or email and say, hey, I don't know how to finish strong. I don't know what that means. I'm so burnt out. I'm so over school. And sometimes they just need to be, we would love to give you advice as we're doing now and talk to you, just to shoot you some motivation, even whether you want to attend our schools or not. That's what we're here for as resources. So I will definitely defer to my colleagues, John and Alejandra, to add anything additional, but please, please, please make sure you do not fall off from the amazing work that you guys are doing academically.
We have a couple of questions, so I don't know if you guys have more to say, but I just want to make sure we get to at least the 2 questions that we have. So I'll let you finish, but I just wanted to call that out.
No, let's go for the questions.
Jump right in.
There was one question about the SAT from a parent about, would a college know if a student took an SAT and didn't submit it?
That sort of maybe is, it looks like it was directed to me. So if the student, I think I thought I clarified that, but let me be very clear, since Boston College will be test optional this year. If there is no test submitted to us and it's not in the file, even if the student took the test but really didn't want to submit it because they didn't feel as though it represented them all that well, the answer is no, we don't have any way of knowing that. It is their right in this year. It's their option. It's exactly what the policy says. Their option. So we're not going to go digging to see, I wonder if she did take the ACT and just chose not. No, we're test optional. We mean that. So if you really have the power in your hands, if you don't want to submit your scores to a particular institution and they are test optional, then they are agreeing to evaluate your application without scores.
Okay, thank you. And we had one question way at the beginning. Yes, Chris, can you go to the next slide? And then their contact information will be up. But there was one question at the beginning. I was thinking of joining the Air Force Base military while I'm in college, but if I do not have enough credit, would that affect it? So I'm not clear on that question, but I don't know if any of you can take a stab at that, if you understand what.
I think I saw on your upcoming itinerary that you have a night featuring the military academies. My guess is that might be a really good question to address at that webinar, because I'm not exactly sure that I could provide the right answer on that one, Karen.
Yeah, and I know most of us are pretty military friendly here in the state with the base. So some students are able to take advantage if they do enlist in the military right out of high school to take college courses while in the military. And essentially that would just mean you just send the institution that you're applying to a copy of your military transcript. It's for us to review them as well for college credit.
Okay.
And for the University of Delaware, what you can do is you can actually apply now. So submit your Common App or your Coalition app, and then let us review your application. And then let's just say we do offer you admission, right? So for this next fall, but then you're like, but wait, I'm gonna go to, my training and whatnot. Then what you can do with the University of Delaware is that you can defer your decision, your admission decision, for up to 1 year. So then therefore, you know that if we offered you admission, that offer of admission is going to be waiting for you for once you're done with your training. So just keep also that in mind.
And same for Delaware State.
So just a couple of things to wrap up. First, I want to thank our panelists for sharing such awesome information on the application process. I want to make sure the attendees know, I put a note in the chat, but all of our Delaware colleges and universities are waiving their application fees now through the end of November. So that's something that not many states I know can say around the nation. So take advantage of that. And let's see. On Thursday, this coming Thursday, the University of Delaware is doing their webinar on their programs and their admissions criteria, more information on that, things, you know, to consider. Alejandra, I think, is going to be on that call, as well as Doug Zander from their admissions team. And then next Thursday, on the 15th, Pia will be back, Pia Stokes will be back to talk about Delaware State University. So that will be, you know, those will be specific to those institutions, so you can learn much more in detail about what they have to offer and learn, you know, why you may want to consider applying to those schools. So with that said, our contact information is on the screen if you have any questions. But please feel free to visit DelawareStudentSuccess.org with the whole schedule of these webinars and register, attend, tell your friends, and hopefully you found this information helpful. And thank you again to John and Pia and Alejandra for speaking to our students tonight. So thank you so much. And the recording will be posted in a couple of days on the website. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.